After the Chernobyl nuclear disaster that took place in Ukraine, on April 26, 1986, the citizens of Gomel in Belarus experienced heavy, black-colored rain. Beforehand, they'd reported aircraft circling the sky, leaving in their wake strange-colored contrails. This rain contained fallout from the Chernobyl disaster. After the Chernobyl disaster, with the heavy plume of radioactive fallout blowing across Belarus and heading for the heavily populated Russian capital of Moscow, a decision was made. In a Moscow airport, Air Force bombers were loaded with artillery shells containing silver iodide, a chemical used in cloud seeding operations. They then flew to Chernobyl, where they circled the reactor in radiuses in 30, 70, 100, and 200 kilometers, dropping silver iodide onto clouds as they went, in order to induce rain that would wash out the radioactive fallout from the sky, bringing it down to Earth. The plan was successful. For Russia, that is. Citizens of Gomel in southern Belarus experienced the infamous radioactive black rains as a result, suffering from increased radiation levels and increased cases of cancer, specifically thyroid, among other health risks. Despite that, Russia officially denies having seeded the clouds around Belarus to protect its capital. In February 2020, Yakuza crime boss Takeshi Ebisawa contacted an undercover DEA agent posing as a drugs and weapons trafficker. Takeshi was looking to sell a large quantity of nuclear material. Seizing the opportunity, another DEA agent posed as an Iranian general, looking to purchase nuclear material for use in the Iranian weapons program. Takeshi sent them a series of photographs of rocky substances next to a Geiger counter containing uranium and thorium. Takeshi offered to sell almost 50 metric tons of uranium and thorium from Burma for $6.8 million, and was also looking to exchange and purchase a variety of weapons on behalf of an insurgent group in Burma, including surface-to-air missiles, AK-47s, and other military-grade weapons. Takeshi also offered to provide them with weapons-grade plutonium, which would be more powerful and more suited for use in nuclear weapons. Takeshi met up with the undercover agent in a hotel room in Thailand, and was in possession of samples of the nuclear material he was willing to sell. When the hotel was raided, and the material was seized, Takeshi was then arrested. A U.S. nuclear forensics lab determined that the samples in his possession contained uranium, thorium, and plutonium. In 1940, a Soviet documentary film was produced, with the title of Experiments in the Revival of Living Organisms. The film allegedly documented the research and experiments of Soviet physician Sergei Brikhanenko into the revival of clinically dead dogs. The film begins with the disembodied heart of a dog, which is hooked up to a device that pumps it with blood through tubes connected to its vessels. The heart starts beating normally as if inside of a body. The second experiment shows a set of animal lungs. These are connected to a billow that supplies it with air to start its breathing action, and tubes connected to the lungs. The tube entering the lungs carries venous blood, lacking in oxygen, while the tube exiting from the artificially breathing lungs carries the same blood, but now oxygenated by the artificial action of the billows on the lungs. The film then cuts to a disembodied dog head. The dog head is connected to an auto-ejector, a machine invented by Sergei, which serves as a hard lung machine. The auto-ejector oxygenates the blood in a reservoir before pumping it into the head, and draining the deoxygenated venous blood back into the reservoir to become oxygenated again. The head is then shown to react to a variety of stimuli, like touch and sound, and even shown to blink, move, and lick its mouth. The final experiment shows a dog that has been anesthetized and drained of all its blood. After 10 minutes of its clinical death, the blood taken from the dog is then pumped back into the body using the aforementioned auto-ejector machine. The dog's vitals start rising back to normal, and the dog comes back to life without further need of the machine. While the experiments shown in the film have been well documented by Sergei, there's still some discussion about the legitimacy of the film, with the consensus that the experiments on the film were nothing more than an artful recreation of the experiments, instead of a documentation of them. There's also some discussion about the alleged results of these experiments, since people who have allegedly seen the original experiments claim that the dog had only remained alive for several minutes in the auto-ejector, as opposed to the hours claimed. Another point of contention is the dog or dogs that have been drained of blood and revived after 10 minutes, since death for 10 minutes ensures that the dogs must have experienced severe brain damage when brought back to life. In addition to that, documents claim that the dogs only survived for a few days, as opposed to the years claimed. Despite that, Sergey's experiments paved the way for many devices in use today in clinical medicine. Also known as the Blue Man or Papa Smurf, Paul Carasson was an American man from Bellingham who was famous for his skin that had turned a purplish-blue color. Carasson suffered from acid reflux, sinus problems, and dermatitis. In an attempt to cure these problems, he consumed a colloidal silver solution he made at home, a solution which contained suspended silver particles. Carasson consumed almost 10 ounces of the solution daily, and even rubbed some on his skin, in an attempt to help with his dermatitis. After 14 years of that regimen, Carasson's skin turned blue, a permanent side effect of the consumption of colloidal silver, argyria, which in some cases even turned a person's organs blue. Despite that, Carasson claimed that the colloidal silver had cured him of his acid reflux and arthritis, and he continued taking it until his death from a heart attack that caused him pneumonia and a stroke, which was unrelated to the supplement. Colloidal silver is a dangerous supplement with no proven health benefits that counteract its risks. In 1927, U.S. amateur golf champion and socialite Eben Byers was prescribed Radiothor by his doctor, after injuring his arm when he fell from a railway bed. Radiothor was a relatively new medication that had come out during the newfound drought with radioactive substances at the time. It consisted of a solution of the radioactive element radium in water, and was advertised as a cure for many ailments. As Byers began taking the Radiothor, drinking several doses per day, he claimed to have begun feeling better, claiming that the Radiothor gave him a toned-up feeling. Byers had to stop though in 1930, after consuming almost 1,400 doses of the medicine, which caused his health to drastically deteriorate. Byers had lost a great deal of weight, and suffered from headaches, and his teeth started to fall out. Byers' whole upper jaw had fallen off except for 2 teeth, while most of his lower jaw had to be removed. His remaining bones were disintegrating in holes that started forming in his skull. On the 31st of March 1932, Byers had died from what at the time was called radiation poisoning, but was in fact an accumulation of cancers in his body from years of consuming the radioactive radium solution. Byers is currently buried in a lead-lined coffin due to the radioactivity his body still produces. While the image of a man completely missing his lower jaw that has been used in the meme has been widely circulated around the internet, and is claimed to be that of Byers, this photograph is in fact not of Byers, but is from a medical textbook showcasing war injuries. On July 20th, 1981, David Allen Kirwan and his friend Ronald Radcliffe were driving their truck through Yellowstone National Park, accompanied by Radcliffe's dog Moosey. At 1 p.m., when the pair parked their car to take a closer look at the springs, the dog escaped from the truck and ran towards the thermal spring, the Celestine Pool, which reached temperatures of over 200 degrees Fahrenheit. The dog jumped in the boiling pool and began yelping. After some deliberation, Kirwan jumped in the pool in an attempt to rescue his friend's dog. Kirwan swam to the dog, tried to lift it, but was unable to do so. He then disappeared underwater, letting go of the dog. Kirwan then walked back to the shore, muttering, "That was stupid. How bad am I? That was a stupid thing I did," as he was pulled by his friend from the water. Kirwan was blinded, and as one of the spectators attempted to remove his shoes, his skin came off with it. He had received third-degree burns over his whole body, and would die the next morning at Salt Lake Hospital.